Hi, everyone. Welcome back. If you're returning from listening to the first episode, if you're new, welcome to the Nerves of Teal podcast, where I am telling my mom's ovarian cancer story and the story of her treatment, her diagnosis, her symptoms, all of the above, really. And we started yesterday's episode with kind of a explanation on why I'm doing this. I would like to make sure that my children's children and their children and everybody that has ovarian cancer has some kind of resource just to relate to. If we help one person even recognize a sign that they should maybe go to the doctor in advance of when they would have, that would be fantastic. So we're doing this. I'm doing this to really have a medium to share. And I think it's also going to help me through my grieving process since I lost her. So I mentioned in the last episode that I had this big piece of documentation. So this is it. This is my mom. Isn't she beautiful? And this is the size of the binder. I have a bunch of pages marked because I'm going to get genetic counseling tomorrow at University of Chicago. And I'm going to bring this with me to share a couple of things. But so today we're going to talk about where we left off. Yes, the first episode was about the diagnosis and being in the hospital. Today we're going to pick up with what we learned when we were in the hospital about our family history, which was really, really disturbing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I realize if you watch the episode from before, the first one, that there might have been a little interference with the screen because of the artwork that I shared. So hopefully you will see this today. But this is my Aunt Tina, and she's holding her phone, who is showing a picture of my Zio Franco from Italy. And we called him, Aunt Tina called him because we knew that there was some cancer in the female side of the family, and she wanted to get verification on what type of cancer it was. So if you can see here, I've got the text message actually blown up here. It's in Italian, and I don't speak Italian, but I can kind of read, as I do remember listening and talking to my Aunt Tina about this. But essentially, we learned that unfortunately, Zio Franco lost his mom and his sister, or I'm sorry, his mom and his aunt of ovarian cancer at the ages of 70 and 50. And then he lost his two sisters of ovarian at 44 and 40. So this is just tragic and so disturbing to know. All this information, really put us in a state of absolute shock. And I immediately called my cousin Chrissy, who lives in New Jersey, used to live in New York City, and explained what was going on to her. And then, we knew that we were going to get genetic testing from that point. I didn't even know what genetic testing was. So it was a lot to take in at the time. And again, this was the second day of being at the hospital, the first day of hearing that she had ovarian cancer. So we were in the hospital for 5 days. And one of the reasons she had to stay in the hospital is because when she arrived on a Friday, there were no interventional radiologists on staff over the weekend. And she was really suffering from this extreme swelling in her abdomen, which we did not know what was going on at the time, but it was something that we learned that is called ascites, which is fluid that builds up in the abdominal cavity. Most of the time, it's not a good sign. Most of the time, it is cancer, as far as I know. And again, I'm not a doctor here. I'm doing my best to remember, what all of this meant. But ascites is certainly something she battled throughout her cancer journey. It was so bad, though, when we went into the hospital because we didn't know what it was. And she was extremely uncomfortable. She could barely move. And she's a tiny woman. So we were really looking forward to getting this procedure they called a paracentesis. And unfortunately, we couldn't get that scheduled until Monday. So Monday, we met a guy named Bradley Johnson. And Bradley is a PA there who works in interventional radiology. And my mom really loved Bradley because he did the procedure and put this big needle in her abdomen and relieved her of about 12 pounds, 6 liters, but about 12 pounds. That's the equivalent of the fluid that she had removed from her abdomen right in front of our eyes. So my Aunt Tina and myself, we were there and we were in shock, seeing these big liters of fluid being drained. We'd never been exposed to this before, but I am telling you, that gave her the biggest sense of relief. And she could eat again. It was just amazing how much relief she got. So we were told that was going to be part of the journey. And so that we, once we got the doctor appointment set up and whatnot, we would probably have a standing order. So speaking of doctors, we had a lot of attention. I know a lot of people, thank goodness. I have an amazing network of friends. And because I do this work with the Service League of Northwest Indiana, which I mentioned yesterday, these women that I have been volunteering with for years, a lot of them are either physicians themselves or connected to the medical community in one way, shape, or form. And I immediately started calling everyone to get help, to get her a plan. And in the hospital, we were referred to somebody by the name of Dr. Sharma. And we had an appointment with him the following week. I think we were in the hospital 6 days. And then we met Dr. Sharma. And he was fantastic. He was great. Gave us kind of a lay of what we could expect. But my mom is really, really bashful. And she felt not as comfortable with having a male doctor. So she asked if she could possibly find a female doctor. So I went looking, researching, and I learned that there was a University of Chicago specialty clinic for gynecologic cancers in Cherville, Indiana. This office just happens to be in the same complex of where my business, Float 60, is in one side. There's 2 buildings. I'm in one. This university in Chicago is the other. But I had no idea that they had a clinic for gynecologic cancers in that building, which was like a miracle. So I immediately called my landlord, Rick Newell, who is an amazing guy, and said, hey, who can I call over here? I need to get an appointment stat. Do you know somebody I can just, talk to right away? And I'm telling you, within 5 minutes, I got a phone call from that office. And we got an appointment set up to see a physician who was also a surgeon, and her name was Dr. Catherine Kernet. So we went to see Dr. Kernet that week. And again, I'm telling you, like within days of getting out of the hospital, we were set and on this course. And Dr. Kernet is one of the most special people I've ever known in my life. The way Dr. Kernet presented herself was really remarkable in the sense that my mom immediately connected to her. Dr. Kernet looked directly into her eyes, barely looked at me, but I appreciated it, right? Oftentimes, for those that know me, I tend to boss my mom around. She is very shy and doesn't always speak up for herself. So doesn't communicate always as clear as she probably could. And so even though I was explaining to Dr. Kernet what we had learned over the last week, she was very much eye to eye with my mom. And it was just very significant because when you're going through something like that, you really want to feel like somebody is very empathetic and understands. And I think the fact that Dr. Kernet had that feeling, gave her that feeling, she was immediately like, I'm sorry, I don't want to go back to the other doctor. She's my doctor. And I was like, okay, perfect. Let's do this. So Dr. Kernett from that point became our physician. She goes back and forth between the Hyde Park main campus of University of Chicago Medicine and this Cherville office. Now, another doctor we were introduced to very quickly that next week was Dr. Amir Sadani. And Dr. Sadani, at first glance, he's a very youthful looking physician. And we didn't have any idea what a, hematologist actually even was responsible for in the care team. And so we started seeing him, and we really laid out a plan where we would see Dr. Kernett at University of Chicago, in Chicago and Cherville, and then try to have a course of action for chemotherapy and treatments here in our home area of Crown Point, Maribel Crown Point area. So another person I'd be remiss not to mention at this stage is one of the first people we met when we met with Dr. Sadani at the Crown Point Northwest Cancer Clinic was Erica, his nurse practitioner. And I immediately bonded with Erica because of her shoes. She has great shoes and very fashion forward nurse practitioner. So we had a lot of good times in the office over those 18 months talking about shoes and where we got them from. And it was great. So she was, little did I know she was going to be part of our team for the next 18 months, but I'm so glad that she was. So, this episode, I really wanted to just kind of set up how we got our course of treatments and plan together quickly. What I learned is never be shy about asking for help and leveraging your network. One of the things that is crazy about a cancer journey or any complex chronic illness is that oftentimes you have to deal with multiple systems, meaning multiple hospital systems, clinics, specialists. They don't all talk to each other. Their systems are different. You have MyChart, you have certain software that might be related to the cancer center. And so just having to navigate all of that was really, really hard. And I'm so grateful that I'm mostly tech forward and tech friendly and not averse to jumping in and trying to figure things out, because just kind of organizing that was tremendously complicated. I don't even know how normal people who don't work in tech do it, because it's very hard. So with that, this episode kind of covered off on what we did in terms of a course of action. And the next episode, I will talk about, what we were told in terms of our treatment plan and our surgery plan, and go from there. So thank you to all of you for listening. I really appreciate, people's encouragement after listening to the first episode. And I can't express enough how grateful I am that I've got a little network out there who, may be able to share these episodes with people that they know who are battling ovarian cancer, or caregivers that are going to go through a really tough journey. So until next time, thank you for tuning in to Nerves of Teal. I'm Gogo Morris, and I look forward to coming back and talking to you again.